Back from the dead.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mickey C and welcome to another League of Legends video. And in this video we're going to be talking about a Kennen main in Challenger who's currently rank 14. His name is BobJenkins and he's played over 319 games on Kennen with a 61% win rate, and he plays Kennen mostly in the mid lane or the top lane, but he also plays Kennen in the AD carry position or in the support position. The only position he does not play Kennen in is obviously jungle. So let's get into this guide. So starting with summoner spells, so he takes different summoner spells in each position. So starting off with the top lane, he would take flash and teleport, pretty standard. In the mid lane though, he would take flash and ghost for the most part. Maybe very rarely he would take flash and exhaust against matchups such as Zed or Yasuo, but for the most part in the current patch he's taking flash and ghost. In the AD carry position he will take flash and heal, and then in the support position he will once again take either flash and ignite or flash and exhaust depending on the situation or the matchups. So now we'll talk about each position, and we'll start off with the top lane and the mid lane together because he builds Kennen exactly the same in both those positions. The only difference with these two positions are those summoner spells which I mentioned before. So now with his mastery page in the top lane and the mid lane, he just has the one mastery page that he uses in these positions, and he's got the 12 points in ferocity and the 18 points in cunning. You guys can just pause the video and copy this page if you want to. His Keystone Mastery is the Storm Raider's Surge. This synergizes really well with the burst damage with his ultimate, so it allows Kennen to get in, do a lot of damage, and then either chase down the kills or get himself out of there and hopefully survive. So that's why Storm Raider's Surge synergizes really well with Kennen. This is obviously only recommended if you're building the AP Kennen build, which is obviously what BobJenkins does in the top lane and the mid lane. So now we'll talk about his rune page for the top lane and mid lane. He's got 9 magic penetration reds, 9 scaling health yellows, 9 scaling cooldown reduction blues, and then the 3 spell vamp quints. So now with his skill order, he would start with Q, get his W second, and then his E. He would max his Q first, then his W second, and then his E, and then obviously his ultimate whenever he can. Going through his match history, it didn't appear that he changes his skill order in different matchups, so he pretty much always goes with the skill order. He does the same thing in the support position, but in the AD carry position, he does go with a different skill order, but we'll talk about that later. Now let's talk about his items. So his starting item is actually pretty interesting. He much prefers starting with the Doran's Shield over the Doran's Blade. Most Kennen players would start with the Doran's Blade. So what this tells me is he prefers to play much safer during the early laning phase and won't look to harass too much. For you guys who do not know, Doran's Shield blocks 8 damage from single target attacks and spells from champions. The only other starting items I saw BobJenkins go with is Boots of Speed and 4 pots, or a cull in fact, and a pot. However, this was only in 3 of the 50 games I looked at, so for the most part he would always go with the Doran's Shield, and in fact he never ever went with the Doran's Blade from the games I looked at. Now moving on to his build order, and against AP champions he would rush an Abyssal Scepter into a Zhonya's Hourglass and then Sorcerer's Shoes. Against AD champions he would rush a Zhonya's Hourglass into a Hextech Proto Belt and then the Sorcerer's Shoes. And a final build example would be an Abyssal Scepter, Zhonya's Hourglass, Sorcerer's Shoes, Hextech Proto Belt, Rabadon's Death Cap, and a Void Staff. This is the build that he'll finish up with in about 80-85% of his games. The other situational items that he may go with are Rylai's, Liandry's Torment, or a Nash's Tooth. If you want a slow or you think you need the slow, you can go with the Rylai's or the Liandry's. If you think you need some attack speed, maybe for the wave clear, you can go with the Nash's Tooth. Now we'll move on to his Kennen support, and we'll start with the mastery page. So he takes this page with 18 points in cunning and 12 points in resolve. Once again, you guys can just pause the video and copy it if you want to, but he takes the Thunderlord's Decree as his Keystone Mastery. Thunderlords has a lot of early damage and synergizes really well with Ignite, so you can try and get that early kill and snowball the bot lane from there. Onto his runes, he would take 7 hybrid penetration reds, 2 magic penetration reds, 9 scaling health yellows, 9 scaling cooldown reduction blues, and the 3 attack speed quints. However, recently he's been playing with this other page in the support role, which is kind of a standard AD page, where he's got 9 attack damage reds, 9 armor yellows, 9 magic resist blues, and then the 3 attack speed quints. His skill order in the support position is exactly the same as his top lane and mid lane Kennen, where he maxes Q, then W, and then E, and his ultimate whenever he can. Now moving on to the support items. So you want to get those usual standard support items. So starting with the Spell Thief's Edge and some pots and a yellow trinket. You can then upgrade the Spell Thieves into a Frostfang. Get your Sightstone for boots. The best boots to get are probably Boots of Lucidity if you want some cooldown reduction. If you're looking to roam a lot more, you can get Boots of Swiftness. And then the first item choices are usually either a Locket or a Zhonya's, and you can probably get both of them if you have enough gold. And then for the late game, often with the support you don't get to your final build, or it's very rare for a support to get to their final build, but some late game options are Eye of the Watchers, a Hextech Proto Belt, and a Abyssal Scepter. So now finally moving on to the AD carry position, and this is obviously a lot different because you're going to be building AD instead of AP on Kennen. So let's do this. So starting with Masteries, you want to be taking a standard AD carry Mastery page where you got 18 points in Ferocity and the 12 points in Cunning. Obviously the Keystone Mastery you want to go with is Fever of Battle. So once again, you guys can just pause the video and copy this if you want to. So runes, he goes with a standard AD page which you saw before, so it's 9 attack damage reds, 9 armor yellows, 9 magic resist blues, and the 3 attack speed quints. The skill order he goes with, as I said before, is a bit different. So he's going to start with W, then Q, and then E, and you want to max your W first, then your E, and then your Q last, and then obviously your ultimate whenever you can. The reason for maxing Q last in this AD build is because Q solely scales off AP, so there's really no point in maxing Q first, while the other abilities provide a lot more utility for AD Kennen. Now moving on to the items, so just be aware that he hasn't played many AD carry Kennen games, but I'm just going to be basing this off his 2 recent games that he has played in the 6.12 patch. So starting items are going to be pretty standard: a Doran's Blade, a pot, and a yellow trinket. Now his core build in the 2 games were Blade of the Rune King, Rune's Hurricane, and Trinity Force. I think at the moment he's just testing out Trinity Force. I would say it's just a new thing, but in one of the games he actually rushed Trinity Force as a first item, but in the other game he rushed Blade of the Rune King and then got Rune's Hurricane and followed that up with Trinity Force. The following items he went with are Bloodthirster, and then he didn't get to his 6th item, but I would recommend a Lord Dominic's. The boots he went with are Boots of Swiftness, and in fact went Merc Treads in the other game. I guess they had a lot of CC and a lot of magic damage. And then I've just recommended other items, so a Mortal Reminder against champions such as Swain, Vladimir, Soraka. You can get a Mercurial Scimitar if you want that QSS. Gudzu's Range Blade I don't think is too bad on AD Kennen, as well as a Yumu's Ghost Blade. I guess other options can be a Static Shiv and maybe a Phantom Dancer if you want more attack speed. So ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please leave a like. I couldn't find if BobJenkins had a stream, so maybe if somebody knows if he does or not, let me know in the comments section below. But apart from that, have a nice day.